Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Glad you all were able to make it, despite the weirdness that comes with daylight saving time seasonal shift drama. You did good, kids. So proud. So, thank you for joining us, whether you're here live or watching on YouTube. I'm one of your two hosts, Nor Kyle.
And I am her sidekick, Mushtaq Ali.
And yeah, so thank you for again for joining us and for engaging with us on YouTube, since some of you will be watching there. And you know the spiel, the whole thing, the like, comment, subscribe, and share. All of those things help support this channel and keep it lively. We have wonderful people that we've known for quite some time joining us this evening, as well as some new faces, and all are equally welcome, and we're excited to have you all here. With that said, if you'd like to keep our channel afloat, keep our work afloat, because of course we do not limit ourselves just to YouTube, but we do other work elsewhere, and we have bills to pay to do all the things that we do as low cost and accessibly as possible. You can donate to our PayPal or our coffee. Those links are below. You could get a t-shirt if you want. Those are pretty cool. Anything else I need to add, Mushtaq?
Um, I think you still have a couple of spaces for private
I
session.
do. I do have spaces open for one-on-ones. So if you're interested in that, you can hit me up on Facebook, or you can send a message to our Nine-Sided Circle email. You'll find that email in the description of this video, or you can just hunt us down on Facebook. Either way is fine. And if you're interested, I look forward to hearing from you and spending some time together. So I think that is pretty much it for housekeeping, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. You
Yeah,
did the whole like, subscribe,
I'm
leave a
trying to
comment.
keep it basic, you know,
Yeah.
as well as we can. Um, Other than that, what was I going to say? Oh, yes, Ramadan starts tomorrow,
Yeah,
at
well,
least
it
from our
starts
point of
right
view.
now as the sun's.
Yeah, sunset, if we're talking about lunar calendar time. So, if you're celebrating, we wish you the best fasting month, however you practice, and a happy Ramadan. All right. So this evening, inspired by some conversations we had last week and in the comments on our last video, we are going to be talking about Wahdat al Wujud.
And the secret of Al Haqq.
Yes. So this is I think going to be a pretty cool conversation, because these are both concepts that are close to our hearts and that um, are kind of a thread that ties much of what we talk about here together. These topics mean a lot to us and probably to many of you. Otherwise, we wouldn't be hanging out together so much. So, where should we begin, Mushtaq? First of all, what do we mean by these words, these phrases?
Yeah, both are interesting. We should start with Haqq, which is an Arabic word spelled HQQ. Um, and it means it's a hard word to translate exactly because it can mean the truth, the true, the real, the actual, a lot of different things like this. I think I like to combine it and say the truly real or reality.
Mm-hmm.
And it is one of the traditional 99 names of God.
Yeah, so sometimes we might even use the phrase divine reality, but
Yes.
every time we use those words, the spirit of the thing that we're pointing to is Al Haqq, the all of those words. Yes.
Yeah. And this desperately wants us to ask the question, what is true? That is one of the important questions. There are some questions that if you ask enough will lead you to awakening. And what is true, or what is the truth, or what is real? What can I know is real? What can I know is true? These are the questions that lead you to waking up if you ask them enough and don't go crazy.
Yeah, it can be a bit of a crazy making affair, can't it?
Yeah, because you start off and you don't know how to even come up with an answer to the question.
Which is okay, really, because I think on some level the power is in the asking, the beginning to ask, the beginning to explore.
Yeah. So, what is true? What is truth? What is real? Anyone? Bueller?
Let's take a leap. Who wants to take a chance on that?
I'll take a chance.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be the answer. It can be your
They're all
answer.
the answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I've been doing a little bit of preparatory work on this, so just in case I was asked. Look, it seems to me that there's a truth. It's a sliding scale. Although your truth is different to my truth, or but my truth can change.
If it can change, can it really be the truth?
That's why I say it's a sliding scale of
Yeah.
truth. And so it's more, to me, truth is a direction. It's not or it's a doing rather than a something specific.
What if you go all the way to the end of the scale? What do you got?
There could be a convergence there
A
where
convergence.
we all experience the same, but
And what would that be?
I don't know.
Ah, that's what we want to find out. Relative truth, according to this way of thinking, is not truth. Truth is what you can absolutely know without a doubt. And this has been a philosophical conundrum for quite a while. And those who come up with the answer come up with the same answer in different languages, different ways of describing it.
What you've offered, though, Jonathan, I think
Yeah, it's
is,
completely valid. I'm
yeah,
not saying you're wrong. I'm saying
because
you're
we
right.
have to start from
Yeah.
the relative and poke around and ask questions.
Yeah.
So
And
I
does
go
sorry
ahead.
to
Go ahead.
interrupt, but does one ever really need to have the experience of Al Haqq in its purest form to make progress in life? I mean,
What's progress?
a movement towards
You do not need
truth.
the truth to live in the matrix. You do not need the truth to live the everyday life of the somnambulistic people out there. You don't need the truth to live in society. As a matter of fact, um, the experience of the truth and the experience of society and culture and getting along and making a living and all of that can be antithetical to each other. So for most people, truth is optional or irrelevant. For some people, it is absolutely necessary. And the reason I think that more people do not get to the truth with a capital T, to the experience of Al Haqq, is because it is not that meaningful to them.
Yeah, I've definitely heard that. And I think it's one of those things where I respond with kindness and acceptance, because it's like, you know, we all have different paths.
Yeah.
We all have different
And if you
motivations.
go up to somebody out in West Texas and you say, hey, what is the ultimate truth? They're going to look at you and say, don't bother me with that. I got to get the North 40 plowed. And that's their truth. It's not the truth, but that's where they are. So what do you do with that?
Ian, though, did you have something you wanted to share? I saw you unmuted. I might be mistaken.
Well, I use the mute button on my microphone. It's easier.
Yeah.
I was thinking though, would it be too facile to say it's the phrase "I am that I am"?
Only if you know what you're saying. Anybody could say that, but what is the experience of it?
Yeah.
And that, by the way, is a mistranslation. God never said that in the Torah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did he say?
If you read the Hebrew, and don't believe me, check it.
I don't read the
It is,
Hebrew.
well, other scholars have commented on it.
Sure. Yeah.
It is in the future tense, not in the present tense, that those words are. So a proper translation would be closer to "I will be that I will be." Go figure.
That's interesting.
People have
I
been
don't even know how to make sense of that.
Yeah.
and it blows whole cults out of the water, because you have all of these I am cults running around, Summit Lighthouse and peoples like that, who go around doing the I am, and it never was I am. Osama has his hand raised.
Yes. On this topic, so this was what I was thinking about yesterday, actually. This divine I am, right? I was thinking of the ayah, the verse in the Quran when God is speaking to Moses, right? Which is pretty much like the one in the Torah and the Bible. And in Arabic, the phrase or the ayah is "Innani ana Allah, la ilaha illa ana, fa'budni wa aqim as-salata li dhikri." It is I am Allah, right? So the word ana, which in Arabic translates to I, la ilaha illa ana. There's no divine, there's no deity except I. And I was like, wait a second. What is this I? That
is the question.
Right. And yeah, that's pretty much that's where I left off, which is what is this I? Especially if it's coming from something that is, let's say, okay, it's divine, which is limitless. However, here, the other spectrum of this I that can be very limited. That's in accordance with like the ego, as far as the limitation that it puts on what I is, what I, the I-ness, whatever it is. And also it's interesting about how you translated I am, what is it, how you translate it? I will be what
I will be that I will be. Tell them I
which,
will be sent you. That would be a closer to the actual Hebrew.
which is interesting
And
because it does
people have
sound like
danced around that like you wouldn't believe for the last, ever since they noticed the mistranslation, which was not that long ago. Trying to figure out what it actually means and why it should be I am that I am, why it should be translated like that, even though it isn't, it shouldn't be.
yeah, that is interesting. It does remind me of the phrase kun fayakun for some reason, and how the way you translated it.
Yeah.
Mm.
And Allah also speaks in the past tense. You know, the I was a hidden treasure hadith. You know, there it's past tense. I was, I am, I will be. Could be all of them.
So, kun fayakun, for those who don't know, is a pretty famous phrase in the Islamic tradition that means, God says be, metaphorically speaking, and it becomes, it manifests, it's instantaneous, it's natural.
Yeah, and not just metaphor.
Well, yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
God doesn't necessarily literally say be and then poof. So that all of that is interesting. All of that.
Yeah, and we'll come back to that thought because that's within the realm of the discussion tonight. But we should get to James here before
Who's been waiting so patiently?
So patient.
James, yes.
If I ask myself, what am I really, what am I at the foundation? Relative definitions don't seem to hold it. They don't seem to hold the sense of presence, the sense of existence. They don't work. Relative
No, they
identities
don't do that.
work. So then I kind of turn into something else. Well, what is this presence? And that's where it sometimes intimates that I am held in something broader, some broader ground of being. But it's not anything that relative knowledge is going to uncover. It's a different kind of inquiry.
Yes, it is. That's exactly correct.
Yeah. That's what I've sort of been stumbling to articulate over the last 5-10 minutes. I sort of want to arrange.
You'll never be able to say it in words.
Yeah. The only conclusion I can have in words is that it is a mystery. It has a consequence for me on a felt level. It contains or upholds me or makes me manifest in some way, but I can talk about my small self, its relationship to it, or the consequence, but I can't describe it.
Yeah, that's because every time you do that, you create a separation.
Yes. Yeah. So a lot of the process
you
seems
have
to be
go
getting
a
rid
little
of the
Taoist
relative.
on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Tao that can be spoken of, the Haqq that can be spoken of is not the true Haqq.
Yeah.
With
but it still has a personal consequence in my life that is distinct, even though I can't describe the source of that consequence. Yeah.
Just because
that's all.
It's not being able to describe it is what is interesting, because the term describe, what does that mean? It means to like draw something around it. And it's too big for that.
Yes.
You have to do the opposite of describing. To understand Al Haqq, you have to go for pure experience. Zach, speak to us.
Reminds me of there's this famous theorem, Gödel's completeness theorem.
Yes.
Well, Gödel is famous for the incompleteness one, but actually there's the completeness theorem. And loosely speaking, it goes something like, if you find the space where there are rules that apply, then you can basically find, or you can prove that all sentences would apply to that space as long as they fit under that rule. But the point is in order to prove this, by going point by point, you basically have to go through every single point in the universe and prove it separately.
Yeah.
However, you can prove that there only exists one. So kind of like the same, I guess the same logic follows here.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Which is a
Also
little
for the trivia, Gödel died because I guess he went crazy trying to figure this stuff out. He died from hunger because he was he thought that people are out to get him and poison him. Sad ending for one of the biggest logicians that ever lived, but that's the quest to Al Haqq, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, the real path has traps and pitfalls. They're not traps and pitfalls that exist outside of our own egos, but they're very strong within our own egos.
Mm. Do you have a thought?
Hi everyone. Sorry, I have to turn the video off because of internet coverage. It just reminded me what Zach was saying, reminded me of Al Hajj and how he said, and Al Haqq. It has consequences, like what James said.
Yeah.
And I also agree with what Jonathan said, that there's this sense of reality through our senses. You know, I'm here right now talking to you, seeing you, hearing you. So there's this sense of reality, which is the little r, the little t of the truth. And yet it points to and is nothing other than from the capital R reality, the absolute reality, because there is only that, there is no other. So all that is that, but yet it's not. And I don't think it, like you said, and probably that's what we're going to conclude to, there is no real way of talking, but because how can you talk about something that is not comparable to anything, as it's said in the last.
Exactly. At best, you end up sounding like Ibn al-Arabi and people look at you and go, what?
He gave it a good shot.
Good shot. And he gave us some very useful tools. But the point about Mansur al-Hallaj, who was killed because he, in a state of realization, he said, Ana al-Haqq. I
am the truth.
Yeah. And at the moment he spoke that, I would submit he was either completely insane, which I don't think is likely, or he was in a state of fana fidat, the annihilation of essence, the annihilation of everything other than God.
Of that sense of limited beingness.
Yeah, all gone. Poof.
Mm.
And he violated the first rule of the hippies. Yeah, Hallaj was a proto-hippie, I'm sure. And the first rule of the hippies is don't freak out the straights. And he freaked out the straights, and they killed him for it.
Yep.
Truth has consequence.
Yes, truth has consequence. Speaking the truth has consequence. Speaking the truth to power really has consequence.
I just want to touch on what
Well,
James shared
yeah.
in the chat. So hold that thought. The truth has consequence. James says, to quote, understand the capital R real, I have to let go of the control predict agenda of conventional language. I have to stand under it, submit to it, risk releasing into it. I can't overstand it. I can't capture it and force it to serve conventional motivations. Yeah, I think there's a lot in there, James. Thank you. So, there is a sense of surrendering to the truth, right? Which I think ties into this idea of truth being risky.
Yeah, there's a great quote from Miyamoto Musashi that goes something like, you must surrender to the truth, otherwise the truth will just run you over. I'm paraphrasing there, of course.
Yeah, I wonder. So we've already touched on, like, I mean, we'll come back to this, I'm sure, but given that truth is risky, it's no wonder that people bail on the path of seeking it, because it's just too much trouble, too much work, too much stress, impractical seeming oftentimes. If you're not hungry for it, it's just like, oh, what drudgery is this?
Yeah, put me back in the Matrix. Let me have a steak.
Yeah.
Going off the Matrix, no matter what Neo would have unveiled and looked under or looked through in the stimulus that he was in the what's it called, in the matrix that he was in, there would no way he would have ever known what the truth is. He had to be taken out of it.
Yeah, and there's something interesting there that most people don't realize, and I don't think I've talked about this yet, but Neo never came out of the Matrix. When he was dropped out of the pipe and was picked up by the airship, he was still in the Matrix. That was all part of the Matrix thing, where you have people who come out into what seems to be the real world, and then there's a collapse and then a rebuilding, and the Matrix starts all over again.
Well, can we say it's all an assumed reality? It's just an assumption.
Yep. And that's the thing. When you start asking yourself, what is true? What can I know is true? What is real? How do I know I'm awake? Who am I? All of these questions are the same question, asked from different perspectives. Eventually, you will get to a point where there are no words to answer that question. And that's when you start. That's not the end, that's the start.
The questioner needs to die.
Yeah, the question needs to die. And that's the only way to begin to apprehend Wahdat al Wujud. Because you cannot come to that until all of the structure of what you think of as you, what your identity is dissolved away. And when you get to that, you understand that the I that you think of as you is not real, but that which is behind the I is the real. And that's what Halaj came to. Hallaj experienced himself as the Ruh al-Quds, the Holy Spirit, the sacred breath that has been breathed into each and every one of us. And that breath comes from the one and it returns to the one and has never been separate from the one. And yet we are not the one. Gives me headaches if I think about it too hard. It's not meant to be thunk about. Is that the
I
right
agree.
word? Thunk, yes. Thought is not good enough. Thunk, because it's an onomatopoeia for the sound your head makes on the desk if you think about it too much.
Yeah, that feels that resonates, I think,
Yeah.
to my experience as well. So for those who don't know, I don't know if we've mentioned it yet, but Wahdat al Wujud. Let's unpack that phrase.
After you, my dear.
So last week we talked about, I don't know how to pronounce it, forgive me, my Turkish friends, but we talked about this, was it Vedet? This word that means like, we used it in a poem by Yunus Emre.
Yeah, that's Wajud.
Wajud.
Yeah. They pronounce W as V. It's all
Yeah.
the same exact word. And it can mean body.
Right.
Yes.
So there's this sense of,
And help us out here as if we
please,
drift
you
too far
explained
off
it
the
so
reality.
beautifully in the comment. I'm sorry to put you on the spot again, but
The word wujud can be used as body, but it more points to being rather
Yes.
than body. So
exactly.
being in a manifested state, kind of.
Yes.
And wahdat comes from wahid, which is the oneness,
Yeah.
Yeah.
necessarily existing one.
So I wanted to touch on that simply because there is, you know, the word as we're using it is going to be the oneness of being rather than body. But it is interesting to think about bodily unity in a sense too. And I don't want to discard that outright entirely, because I think it serves as a way to wrap our heads around this, to not have it be so unattached to the physical. And we talked about embodiment last week, and we need to remember that this is not just a disembodied Haqq.
Yeah. There is in a book written by Khalil Gibran called Jesus, Son of Man. Mary Magdalene talks about the first time she saw Jesus. And she said, it was as if every part of him loved every other part as he moved through the marketplace. Again, I paraphrase, but that is what made me understand unity of body and spirit. That, you know, I read that, God, decades ago, and I said to myself, I want that. I want to be able to do that.
I find it interesting that she used the word loved.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, and that was very specific. In the way that it was written, because I went and looked it up in the Arabic, because it was originally written in the Arabic, and it was ishq. That was the root of what she was saying. So I will find that poem and put a link to it in the forum for y'all, because it's sweet.
Did you have something you wanted to add before we move forward?
Yeah, just on wujud again, that it definitely is not about annihilating the body or saying yes, it's not this, but it's not this as well. That of this, like I've been ill for a long time recently, and realized how separate I was from the body and how important it is to be unified. And as soon as I started accepting every part, every cell, every molecule of my being, giving thanks to it and bringing my whole consciousness in unified existence with my body, this body, and then with this body, all that is around me, that droplets of healing started to open up again for me. We can't discard the body out of the equation when looking for or when seeking this reality that we're all seem to be in love with in Ashkov. Like you guys said last week, without the body, you can't think, you can't feel. It's the vehicle that takes us to the door to where we're going to call home. And until that point, we need to be unified within it, loving to it, look after it, be good caretakers of it. And as we take good care of this, we take good care of the Mother Earth, which is another body. And it's all of these bodies, like concentric circles within one another, that we unify with. And then hopefully in this unification, we may get a taste of that Wahdat al Wujud sense of being. Allah alam, Allah knows best. But that ashk, I guess when it hits you, when it hits your heart and takes over, then every part of you will emanate only love, vibrate only love, and it won't be an idealistic thing. It will be a lived thing where people actually feel it too, like Mary Magdalene so beautifully said. Yeah, I want that too. Mushtaq, I want that too.
We're all working at it. One of the things to remember is that if Wahdat al Wujud is true, then the body cannot be separate from Allah, because that would be shirk. And that's the thing. To search for Al Haqq, when you begin to find it, the first thing most people find is what René Descartes found. And that's why there is a quote from him on the description of this. He did his radical doubting. He doubted everything he could possibly doubt. He found ways to prove that he could not trust his own senses. He could not trust the people around him. He could not trust any of existence that he experienced as being real in any fundamental sense. But what he came to was the one thing that he could not doubt was himself as the witness to this. The eye that perceives beyond the thoughts. And that's where we get the ever so misinterpreted cogito ergo sum, the I think, therefore I am. What he meant by that is the one thing that I cannot doubt is my own being. And then from there, that's the beginning. And from there, you get to Wahdat al Wujud. You get to understand that all that you experience from that state is Allah showing you the beauty of his manifestation. And you realize that it's actually Allah looking through your eyes to see the beauty of the manifestation. You are just a construct that he made so that he could see himself, a mirror.
Reminds me of a poem from Yunus. He says, just a little part of it. He says, sen çekil aradan kalır sadece yaradan. Meaning, You just move out of the way of your own self and you'll see that there's only Allah. There is nothing
Yes.
else. So it's simple words to just show such a grand
Yeah.
truth.
That was the beauty of Yunus. And Rumi was brilliant. He wrote the Masnavi. I have the Masnavi. It's like 8 volumes.
Big
Takes
old
up that
chunk
much.
of books. Yeah.
Yunus takes up that much, but it says the same thing.
Elegant.
Yes.
What is the full name there, Yunus?
Yunus Emre. Emre.
Ah,
Osama.
Yeah. One of the things that are coming up for me are 2 things. One, which is ashq, right? This path of love, in order to kind of I guess transcend or move from being here in this logic way of thinking, settling down within the heart, right? And that's one thing also that I think about, is that when I point to myself, to I point I point here rather than here. So this, you know, this ashq that's coming from the heart, from the depth of myself, and that path of love. And the other thing that comes up also is Al Hayy,
Yes.
this all living life, capital L, in movement, which is kind of somehow connects to this idea of wujud, of being, which also can be translated as existence, right? The idea, the word wujud can also mean existence, from material or body to imagination, also as an existence as well. So not only physical stuff, but also mental
Yes.
existence. So, you know, this Al Hayy, moving through that, moving through the sun, the trees, the clouds, and all that. And we see examples of that even in, you know, in scripture, where it says that, you know, the stars and the planets are prostrating to the divine, right? This, everything has this essence and this being within it. So these are the things that are kind of coming up for me, this idea of the path of love, in hopefully aiding into, or providing some kind of aid into answering, you know, Al Haqq, or moving towards Al Haqq, and Al Hayy, the all living life, capital L, that's moving through, kind of what you expressed as far as the Ruh al Qudus, that's in everything. That's just yeah, I just wanted to share that these are the things that are kind of coming up as we're talking about these things.
And that gets us to the really heavy thing about this. The way that is easiest for me to understand this is the thought that Allah, that the divine unity, is at every moment making dhikr of the universe. Every moment. The reason Osama is sitting here talking to me is because Allah is making the remembrance of Osama. If he forgot Osama, no Osama. So understanding this helps us to understand that we have a complete reliance on the oneness of being. And that oneness of being is what projects the seeming being of each of our perceptions. But you wipe away the dust, and it's the one looking at the one through the one. And nothing else, and it never has been, and it never will be anything other than that. And out of that, we get birthday parties, good movies, bad movies, walks in the woods. All of that comes from the one looking at the one through the one remembering the one. Because if Arabi was right, and I'm pretty sure he is, other than Allah does not exist. It is not real. And it has to be not real, because if other than Allah exists, then Allah cannot be said to be the one supreme being of the universe. There would be a partner.
So we are taking that as a premise.
Yeah. We take it as a premise because that is what we experience. When we strip away all of the ego crap and get down to the answer to what is true, that's what we find. We find Allah looking in the mirror that we call Usama or Nur. And the mirror, it's not really the mirror. It's just Allah manifesting his mirror. You see how hard this is to talk about? And the way you get to this is you sit down and ask, what is true? What is the truth? And you keep asking until you cannot discard any answer that you come up with. What is the final answer that you come up with? And that answer is where you start, not where you end. A lot of people think, oh, I found the cogito, therefore I can stop. No. Finding the cogito is where you start. When you strip down to the I am, to the sense of there is only being, that's the treasure map. And you have to follow it to find the treasure. And eventually you get to the point where you realize, oh, the map is the treasure. Or that which is looking at the map is the treasure, which is more true. Can't talk about this stuff very easy.
No, but I mean, I can only speak for myself, but it's almost like I feel it in my teeth.
Yeah.
It's like that sense of it's a felt truth rather than a speakable truth. And again, I reflect on the virtual retreat we had last fall, where we were talking about the creative impulse. And earlier we touched on this saying of, you know, just say be and it is. and this sense of how, everything we understand from the circle of life and all of that stuff, that everything is connected. But when you think of it on this level of the one reality being driven at any moment, every single, there is no infinite moments, there's no separation between each moment, but at every moment, constantly, forever, this emergence of unity that appears to be multiplicity. That's what you feel that's what I feel in my teeth, is just the miracle of that and the power of that.
Yeah, what she said. So that's pretty much what I got to say about it tonight. How about you, Nora? Any more thoughts than what you have?
I mean, I find this, again, for me, as we've been saying, each of us, words fail.
Yes.
And so there's so much in my heart that I feel right now, but words won't be able to allow me to share that with you. So I'm just sharing it with you all in the ways that we can through the connections of the heart.
If I can jump in here real
Yes.
quick.
This is the time where you're supposed to jump in, so you're right on schedule.
Yeah, I think it is helpful to talk about the actual experience of walking through life, having some kind of sense of this unity of being, of existence. One of the practices that you shared with us that I learned from this group is the self-observation, self-remembrance, and self-witnessing. And one of the other ones also, not so much of, I guess it's a practice, the one where, I remember you shared something like, everyone you meet, or treat everyone you meet as if they are Al Khidr, right? The teacher, the hidden, I don't even know how to,
Man, yeah.
the green man, right? Or at some level as this reflection of the divine. And I think it's living life, walking around in this life, practicing those practices and experiencing life from that lens and from that perspective is, or has been, very helpful for me to have some kind of idea of what we're talking about here, because it can get super theoretical, right? Like just reading Ibn Arabi or even talking about it. So I think just mentioning those practices or those exercises, or delving within creativity, or moving always from a space of love, all of these things I think are very helpful, and can provide some kind of experience for us, for whoever is listening to this. I think that's something that, because I can imagine just listening to this and be like, okay, I really have no idea what is going on, right?
Right.
But living or practicing in every day, like I'm going to practice self-observation or self-remembrance and self-witnessing, one can start to taste. I think that's what it is. We're talking about taste. right? And when one can start to taste what it is, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. And, I'm thinking about the body, and I'm thinking about those of us who do have difficulties with our bodies. And we've talked about Mary Magdalene observing Jesus and getting the sense of him in his physicality, that each part of him loved every other part. And I think one of the ways in which we can practice this, among all of these other practices, is to think about, how do we love the seemingly unlovable about our bodies? How do we figure out how to do that? And sometimes that means making changes. Sometimes that means acceptance. Sometimes that means both of those things. But in any event, it's a holistic caring for and embracing that recognizes that, I don't know, let's say you love one side of your face but hate the other because of asymmetries or something. How do you figure out how to wrap your head, your heart around the fact that this is all one? There is no separateness there. And that's like a microcosmic approach to thinking about this larger cosmos level macrocosm oneness thing. Because there's stuff that sucks in this world that, of course, strikes us subjectively as deeply unlovable, undesirable. Get rid of it, never want to see it again. But there's this kind of meta understanding when we talk about the oneness of being, that all of this is divine manifestation. All of it, every bit, all the bits, hated, loved, desirable, undesirable. It doesn't matter. It's all part of the one. Come to grips with that. That's love on a different level. So, that's what I got.
And that's enough.
I
So,
can't get a grip on it. I can only fall into it. I mean, that's another great way to put it, James. Absolutely. Yep.
As unspeakable as it is, without having the conversations, it's through having the conversations. And like Osama said, doing the self-witnessing, self-remembering, and all the techniques, the breathing techniques, the am I awake or am I asleep techniques, the posture techniques, all the techniques that are taught through all the rightly guided pathways are there, I guess, to help that expansion, so that the felt embodied state can be realized, can be tasted. There needs to be a level of expansion in the heart, expansion in the being, to be able to surrender to that acceptance accept the all that is with the shadow and the light, to be able to hold in yourself the horrors that are going overseas right now, alongside all the bounties you're surrounded with, without losing your balance, without cursing, or without getting heedless in your own, like that. For that, that's why I guess in Sana Kamil is so important, the complete human being. To become the complete human being is a part of the equation of all of this. And all the techniques is what helps us to slowly expand our sense of being to merge with the absolute being. Without the conversations, we can't. So we have to, as much as we can't talk about it, we have to talk about it.
Yeah. Yep. It's good practice. Yes. And if we see it as practice, and if we don't allow it to get in the way of the experience itself, but kind of facilitate it, then we can support each other. Yeah.
The Turkish, you know, the soap operas that they do, have become very, very good at it lately.
Oh my
They've
God.
actually got a new one on Rumi.
Oh,
I'm
really?
going to try and put the link up for everyone, because this time they've actually really captured the connection between Rumi and Shams on another level, where you see how they communicate without talking through all the different realities that they are joined together with, and through the haqq, through the hakikat. There's subtitles. I know it's never good enough.
Never
but
great.
it's enough to give you a feel.
Is that the
And
one that you can
done
find
well.
on YouTube?
It's I've heard that if you're a member of the Prime, YouTube's Prime, then you can access it. Otherwise, it's through some website in Turkey.
Okay.
But it's just called Rumi, and it's very well done. Very well done.
Yeah, I think I have one of the episodes of that tucked away somewhere. I'm going to have to see if I can find it. I found they did a soap on Rumi and one on
Eunice Emre.
Yeah, Eunice Emre. That was a while ago.
And I think
And
James
also
shared
they've done one
one
on
too.
Ahmed Yasevi.
That was the one that James found for us,
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah.
I felt with this last Rumi one, they've actually captured the state of the being, his state, rather than, you know, describing,
That
talking.
would be exciting.
describing.
That's exciting. Yeah, we're gonna.
That's how I felt watching it. So I recommend it.
Very cool. Thanks, Sam. Looking forward to that. So I want to. I'm not going to pick on anyone today, but I am going to invite anyone who has not shared yet to chime in if they like.
I will.
Sure.
I'm not of an Islamic background at all, but I was moved by one of your talks a long time ago that said love is behavior, behavior is truth, and
Yes.
I put that up on my bookcase, and I can see it every day to remind me that when you're talking about not being separated by God and the one looking at the one through the one, I thought, yeah, I now get that. You know, I really enjoyed today. I really did enjoy today, because when I'm feeling low, when I'm feeling of little value, then I have to remember why I have a breath. You know, as you say, if God forgets me, I will not be breathing. And I think that's really powerful for myself. Now, when I'm actually disliking somebody, which happens from time to time, and you just think, okay, right, you know, like you can feel the separation. You can feel like, oh, this person is supremely irritating, but they are also connected to me. And this whole talk is actually helping me remember to treasure those that actually prompt me to remember, because that if everything is comfortable, I'm quite happily not remembering. I'm quite happily asleep, and I know that. So I've got to really wake up. So, you know, from time to time when those situations happen and you think, okay, they're not doing things to try and irritate the crap out of me, but maybe that's God also using that person to wake me up. So that's okay. That is okay. And it prompts me to change my behavior. So one of the things that I'm doing when I'm playing tennis, I have to remind people that the people who are not playing very well, how I leave an impression on them when they're playing with me because they feel they let me down. I want them to feel that this is an enjoyable activity together, that I'm not here to just win. You know, I said, I have a competitive spirit, but I want you to participate and I want to see you again. And that's a loving thing to do. So, you know, that this is very basic, very low key, very unglamorous comment, but that's how I bring it into daily life to remember that this person is part of God. I am part of God. And I am an expression of God also if I am being very conscious of my behavior. Thank you.
Thanks, Shri. Thank you. Ibrahim, I did see your hand up. Would you like to share?
It would be a privilege to share. A lot of things came up for me throughout the entirety of this talk. Many of it probably won't make sense. That probably makes sense in the greater scheme of things. The first thing is the symbology of what I'm kind of hearing as I was listening to everybody communicate tonight. In my mind's eye, all that I can see was images, poetry, and just things kind of stewing together. And based on a conversation that I had today with Osama, earlier on in a coffee shop, he was explaining very similarly what he was expressing today. And my mind automatically tried to imagine what would a world look like without words and sounds. Were things as fragmented, or was it just this easily or more easier understood? And then I also kind of sense within my own life, there's many moments of the paradoxes that lie in this deep desire, similar to the paradox that probably lies to being asleep. There's this interesting ground between them both, which led me to almost like wanting to deeply write a poem. But one line that kind of came up for me was, for as I searched for the mirror, all I saw is myself and missed the mirror in its entirety. And I don't know, it's this it's just a lot of beautiful things are coming up. And the line that you stated, Mushtaq, of I will be that I will be, it almost sounds to me that there's this continuum of truth, and any moment we begin to fragment it to any degree, there in itself lies a mask that continuously will veil time and time again. So for me to hold on to the moment that maybe I get a brief aha to experience would be such a disservice, in the same way as if I can experience a beautiful breeze in you guys were saying in the beginning of this call, was it Santa Cruz or the sunset during Santa Cruz, is to squeeze that moment and say, oh, Ibrahim, here, take it. No, it can't happen. But through that shared that experience, and if it's embodied, I can almost sense it just from this lovely, just a connection, not even having to ever been there, quote unquote. But anyway, I'm not sure if any of that makes sense, but that's a lot of the things that I have to sit with and stew with on this
The good
for
news is if it
Ramadan.
made sense, it would probably be wrong.
Very true.
I felt it though. Thank you,
Yeah.
Ibrahim. And I love that the line of poetry. Whatever comes of that, it's beautiful as it is. Yeah, thank you. Anybody else want to share some thoughts before we say goodbye?
Yeah, just quickly, I wanted to say that I'm kind of amazed that this group can have a discussion on this level about this kind of thing. I've had a lot of thoughts during the discussion, but I haven't felt that any of them were coherent enough to warrant trying to get into them. But just kudos to everyone who's involved.
This,
Yay, us.
I mean, this is, I feel like we are blessed to have kind of, and you're part of that, Ian. It's an ongoing conversation. So we are all helping each other deepen our understanding. And so this is just a snapshot of something that is constantly evolving for all of us together.
Well, that's why I keep showing up.
And we're glad. Yeah. Thank you. Mustaqim.
Yes, what come up to me in this discussion is I'm thinking of the idea of that love related to the oneness. It's like if you feel it, if you feel love, like it's like the sample of the taste of oneness. Because if you really love someone or something, feel that connection, like you come one with the thing that you love. I think that's why is talked a lot by Rumi in the poems about love and oneness. That yeah, that's what comes to me. And also the idea that I think it's from Rumi poems too, that we work to clean the mirror, clean the heart, so we can experience the oneness more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Keem. And that's something I'd like to speak to just a moment, is that we don't need to strive to unify with the divine. It's already here. It's already now happening, always. Before now, after now, it's happening. But we don't see it. We don't feel it. And so, Mr. Keem, you were talking about polishing the mirror. And essentially that's what that phrase is about, is allowing ourselves to experience that connection, as James was saying, to fall into it, to allow it to embrace us. I mean, it's already embracing us, but we may not be sensing that for a variety of reasons. And so part of our work is to allow our senses to open up and experience that happening. Yep. So to read James's remark, he says, as soon as we say anything about it reduces it to a paradox, but we are left inspired nonetheless. We are, yes, thank you for that, James. All right, anyone else? Otherwise, I think we can go take our blown minds and go about our business.
Time to go to Brady Bunch mode.
Yeah.
Ba-dum.
Well, everyone, thank you so much for being here and contributing to this conversation. As I said in the beginning, you know, this is a topic that is very potent and important to me and Mushtaq, and clearly to all of you as well. I think we all have a passion for this sense of waking up to this oneness as truth. So with that said, here we are in Brady Bunch mode. And next week is our Two Talk Sunday. So we have our work cut out for us as usual, but we will join you soon. And we can wave to each other, wave to everybody watching on the replay.
And we'll catch it on the flip flop.
Yeah. Bye.